Today, Joe and I talked about a lot of different things, starting with tariffs. Tariffs are big in the news right now, and we've had conversations with different clients, different phases of life that are being impacted in very different ways. So, talked about tariffs, talked about the housing market and how it is being impacted by tariffs, and trying to give a sense as to what the Phoenix housing market is based on what it looked like before COVID versus now. Are tariffs really impacting it all that much? Or is this just the cycle that we're in right now? So enjoy checking out this podcast episode. I think it'll be helpful to you.
Hi, I'm here with my brother John Harding, and today we were talking about tariffs, real estate, and all the crazy things going on in the world, all the uncertainty, a little bit of taxes, and I hope this is helpful. I don't know. I'm not sure we came to any particular conclusion other that we're just kind of talking about what everyone else is talking about. We all don't know what's going on, but we have hope for the future. All right, we're here. We're back. White Hand Black. Nothing happened since the last one, right?
Nothing happened but tariffs. The world went upside
The
down.
world went crazy.
Yeah, isn't that's a song of sorts. Anyway, Hamilton.
Yeah,
I know you're not a big,
not there
you're
yet.
not there. Well, it's difficult to be there with musicals. Be real. I didn't have
Not my scene.
Yeah, but I didn't have a family that was all into it. I don't know if I would.
I'm gonna have a little bit of time in my life. Musicals are not.
They're not at the top of the list. So tariffs did rock the world a little bit in the last few weeks.
I feel like the word tariff is kind of like COVID-19 now. It's like you hear it. You hear it everywhere.
Yeah.
You get emails about it.
Yeah.
Warning.
There are no tariffs.
Have you seen this, Eric?
Tariffs are coming from China.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know. COVID-19, China.
Same players.
China. Gee whiz, man.
Yeah. The thing is, what's actually happening? That part, I don't think anybody knows. I think it's all guess. I mean, we know what's happening. He's basically testing the waters. We know at least a little bit of that. He's testing the waters, seeing how people are responding.
Yeah.
And
seeing how the market responds.
yeah, we'll see how countries respond, how the market responds, and then adjusts after that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It wasn't the stock market that got his attention. It was the bond market, which we won't go into that. But so the bond market creates more stability and or is a better sign of stability than the stock market. Stock market is pretty usually, it's pretty volatile. Usually the bond market is volatile, but it's not as volatile.
Right.
However, it was becoming as volatile as the stock market. And that's when he saw Jamie Dimon on Maria Bartiromo's interview, and he was like, basically, Jamie said something that Trump was like, okay, we need to back off. We'll do a 90-day pause.
Yeah.
And that's what created that. But country still started coming, and I think part of that, obviously we're in the middle of it. We don't know what's going on. So I think, nobody knows, right?
Yeah, we really don't know. I always, it's kind of like, well, what's the end game? Well, you don't always know what the end game is.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're jockeying for a better position, but how you go about that, it's not always clear cut. It's not always, A plus B equals C. You're dealing with, I don't even know how many nations are in existence. It's a lot.
Well, was it 70 nations?
Yeah, said, okay.
There were 70
reciprocal zero tariff. Is that what you're talking about? That came to
and I actually I was listening to a podcast, Flagrant, and I can't remember the comedian's name. He's got like a mustache.
Flagrant?
Flagrant podcast.
Is it Theo Vaughn?
No.
Oh. Kind of the only comedian I know, right?
He has I don't know if he's got a mustache. I know he's got a mullet.
Yeah, he definitely has a mullet.
There was I was just listening to it the other day, and a guy came on who's like this billionaire tech entrepreneur who was kinda going through the whole thing, so it's a good podcast to watch.
Yeah.
Um, he was saying that the word reciprocal tariff, though, was the incorrect term. It should have been, um,
Like,
like,
neutral.
proportional.
Mm,
So that's why there was an imbalance on the tariff. So people were like, "What?" It's saying reciprocal tariffs, but there's an imbalance. Like our tariffs are still lower than the tariffs because the idea was like, "Hey, you got
right.
tit for tat, kind of like tit for tit."
And
That's not.
eye for an eye.
It's not the same.
That's not. Yeah, so right. Right now, somebody's saying, "Hey, we're gonna charge you 50 cents for everything that you bring in." We're saying, "Okay, we'll charge you 25."
Yeah, and
And
it's like, well, that doesn't
it
sound.
doesn't make sense,
That's not reciprocal, right?
right? You are getting the better deal.
Yeah,
If it's just dollars and cents, and I'm sure every country is like, "Well, we offer more to the world,
yeah,
and that's why we're able to offer a different tariff balance or something."
yeah.
Uh,
But I thought it was a pretty. If you ever want to see that podcast, I think he goes through it. He makes sense of everything going on. He's basically saying like Trump's kind of like the Godfather. Have you seen the Godfather? He's kind of like
you offer
bringing the families. He's like bringing the families together, and they're like
Yeah,
renegotiate. So that's like all the countries are. He's like bringing them to the table and say, "Hey, it's been this way for so long. There's a new share. Kind of we got to we're gonna reevaluate everything
right,
right now."
right. Because
And
we don't
so
feel like if the deal is good.
yeah, yeah,
Might have
so,
been good before.
yeah,
I don't know what the deal is now.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think what scares everybody is the Chinese tariffs, the reciprocal tariff. I mean, it's like 125% versus 100. We're charging them 145%, and
Mhm.
now it's 125. So we got this trade war. So you got the largest consumer, like the U.S. is like a third, like consumes a third of the world's goods,
Right.
and then you've got the largest exporter in the world, and they're both going at it. So who's gonna capitulate?
Mhm.
So it's I think that's what's scaring people right now. That's what's creating the most fear because we can everything's made in China.
Yeah.
And so is that gonna create inflation?
Not the shirt.
Not
Or the maid.
Did you do that for the podcast?
No, but I
Is
should.
it really made in
It
America?
is made in America. It's
Wow.
Brooks Brothers. It
Right.
was,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Is an Alan Sears, idea. Anyway,
Oh,
way off topic,
yeah, I was
but
gonna say
yeah, it's American made. I think it's like the longest American made manufacturing for clothing.
Brooks
There's
Brothers
Brooks
is.
Brothers is,
Interesting.
or it's among the longest. And it might just be like the longest that also is for like business, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
so I didn't do it on purpose, but I'm glad I did now.
Yeah.
America. Um, the the thing is, I don't think we have the full story with everything that's trying to be accomplished with China right now. Like, they're obviously becoming so much more of a threat in the Pacific. They're going for Thailand routinely, they're
Taiwan?
Taiwan. Yeah, wow. I know. I know these things.
Starts with a T.
It's just with a T and it's in the Pacific. Um, yeah, you got Taiwan that's being threatened by China all the time in terms of them doing their war games around the island and,
Yeah, yeah.
um
Belt and Road Initiative. They're trying to restrict trade, and you got the Panama Canal.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I think it's just 2 big countries clashing, and eventually you're trying to find out ways to weaken the other country so that they don't hurt your interests too much.
Yeah.
But nobody knows what China wants. I don't know what China wants. China wants China. Uh,
That
China's like
kinda
this
scares me,
huge
though.
collective. Well, yeah, they're, like, not individualistic at all.
Yeah.
We're
They're like
not gonna.
they're like, "We'll all die before we yield,"
Yeah, right.
basically.
Yeah, and for the greater of China.
Yeah.
That is noble or honorable. And it's like the Japanese in World War II.
Yeah.
They're just like
Oh, that's similar.
all the way to the last person. You got people in the jungle like 40 years after the war is over, surviving on their own. It's just this level of it's just a culture that we don't know. even our experts, they may know, but they don't know as it relates to all of the tariffs and everything else that is is at play.
Yeah, they're
It's like they don't know us.
yeah. Well, their economy is collapsing, and their manufacturing is pretty much halted, and the real estate is crashing. Their companies are going bankrupt. The people are going bankrupt.
Mhm.
And if
Scary
that
stuff.
happened here, there'd be an outcry,
Right.
and there would be, you know,
The government
calls for
definitely.
calls for yeah, exactly. Over there, they're like, we're gonna do this to the end.
Yeah.
I mean, they even stated that. They even reference Mao, the CCP released a video saying like Mao stating it, we'll never yield to the US. And this was after World War II.
Yeah.
And after that, he killed 12 million of his people.
Yeah. So yeah, it's freaky stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and they've had the one-child policy for years, so they've got a bunch of males that I'm sure are ready to do whatever they need to do. And, yeah,
There made it to be as many of them as we think, though. That's the problem they're running into.
right.
Is that
Is that maybe
their
the
population is cratering. It
right.
probably has been since 2018. We don't know, but
Well, we don't know. I guess that's
yeah,
the scary thing. You got this big time,
as they say, we have 1.4 billion people. Do they really have 1.4 billion people?
or are they just creating numbers
Yeah,
in order to look like something like North Korea does all the
I
time?
wouldn't put it past them. That's the problem is that you got this adversary you can't really trust
Right. With
because you can't trust them
disinformation.
in so many other areas. That's part of the problem of the trade war is that they steal our IP and take
Mhm.
our we do manufacturing over there. They steal it,
Yep.
duplicate it, package it, and then resell it to us. That's why we buy cheaper goods. That's why we get cheaper goods because they don't have the R&D. They don't have the overhead to
Right. They
put
can
this
just
stuff together. They have the blueprint. They can just redo it, and there's nothing you can do about it.
right, because of China.
And that's part of the problem. Yeah, that is part of the problem. I mean, it's not a fair. A lot of people are talking about this fair. We want fairness in
Right.
trade.
Right.
I I don't think we want to halt Chinese trade. That's not the end goal.
Right.
We
We're seeing
I
what
feel like
fair.
we still need China for global production.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, everybody talks about well, Apple talks about, um, Tim Cook was had this discussion of like, "Well, are we just looking for cheapest labor?" And he's like, "No, it's just that the best manufacturing in the world is coming from China." They have, you know, he was in a room with I don't know how many people it was, but he's like, "This room could be filled with all of the people in America that has these skills. In China, we could fill stadiums with the people with these
Yeah.
skills." He's like, It's just
Yeah,
vastly
because we
different
lost it. Yeah, because that's what they
over
do.
time." Right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, that is the way that they produce.
Yeah.
The idea of fairness comes up a lot, I mean, it comes up all the time, and
Yeah.
you're like, "Well, what does that mean?"
Level playing field.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it comes up. I know it's gotta come up in your transactions with your clients, right? They're like, "Well, just whatever is fair. I wanna make sure that you feel like it's fair." Like, what does that mean?
I feel like what's fair to me is it's a lot more. So you pay me $10,000 for doing nothing. No,
Yeah. Well,
yeah. No.
and the same thing
Yeah.
happens it happens constantly, and it's our desire to seek something that is really hard to find. What is fair? I don't know. What are they willing to do? That's ultimately what most negotiations come down to is, what do you wanna do? We'll see if they wanna do it. If they don't wanna do it, then we're back to the drawing board, and we're gonna try it
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah.
And I do think that that's what he's doing with all this, trade issue is I don't know where it's ultimately gonna end, but you're seeking to find an end that makes both people somewhat happy and probably a little bit uncomfortable too.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of saying what he's saying things like, "Hey, we've been, kind of getting screwed all these years.
Right.
So this is a way to come back and say, hey, we don't want to get screwed anymore,
Mhm.
and we want things to be fair, and we're all about free trade, but we're the ones still getting, we've been screwed all these years.
Right.
So
It's a
yeah,
reset button
yeah,
of sorts, and that's painful.
yeah.
Well
Another reason why I heard the widespread tariff issue. Why'd you do 70 countries? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
that much is because if you excluded one country, well, then all the product's going to go to one country, and then you're going to have it
Just spun
sourced.
through that.
Like if Thailand, let's just say Taiwan or Vietnam.
Right.
Let's just say Vietnam was excluded. What all the packaging is going to go through Vietnam, and it's going to get rebranded, made in Vietnam,
Right.
even though it comes from China. And they've been doing that for years too
Right.
to evade. They started doing that to evade the tariffs that Trump first did uh, when he was in office.
Right.
So, yeah, that's another part of the unfairness. It's like, well, you're not playing by the rules. You're you're circumventing the process. You found these loopholes.
Right.
They're really good at that.
Right. And for them, they're like a by any means necessary type of
Yeah,
yeah, that's how they operate.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, you can't ultimately say, "Okay, your word is what it is." It's like, "Well, yes, my exact words
yeah,
are
exactly.
this." And I'm gonna find every other way
Yeah,
around.
it's like the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. They're all about the letter of the
We're
law.
at the letter, and that's why we said exactly what we said, and this is what we agreed to, and we knew what we were doing when we said this. It yeah. Again, negotiations, this is like this
Yeah,
happens all the time, even in America. It's not just about China. It's like I've dealt with plenty of people that are like, you know, "Do this, and then we're gonna find a way around it because this is what the contract allows for." And so whether or not they,
yeah,
understand that doesn't really matter. Yeah, we understand it, so we're playing it the way we wanna play it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So how's it affect? Are you seeing it affect people around you, like clients? Are people saying, "Hey, I don't want to buy a home now because of these tariffs," or
well, so right now what I'm seeing is a couple things. One is that people that are living in Canada, I do see that being a bit of an issue. Canadians are not happy with the tariffs. Wall Street Journal just came up with an article that talked about how Phoenix, there's a lot of Canadian flight from Phoenix right now. And I was,
create some supply though, right?
well, our supply is actually very high right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in COVID, we were like at 4,500 homes at one point. I remember writing it down. 45, it might have even been like 4,300 homes on the market, 4,300 homes that were actually
So
coming soon.
is that good or bad?
That was a
People
very low,
who don't follow.
yeah, that was a very low supply.
This was in the middle of COVID
Middle of
so, like,
COVID.
do you know what it was prior to
It
COVID?
prior to COVID, you'd be at like 20,000.
Okay,
Um,
alright.
so during COVID,
I like how people say, "For people who don't know," like, I don't follow these numbers myself. Yeah, stay away from me.
yeah, and I feel the same way. Yeah. For you, let's talk about the audience for a second so that I can save face. So true. That's funny.
My friend has a question.
Right. Let me just, um,
So
so
around 20,000 prior to COVID and
20,000 prior to COVID down to like 4,300,
yeah,
maybe even less. I don't know exactly what the stats are as far as how low it went.
yeah.
Um, but now there's 27,000
Alright,
homes
so
on
we're
the
back to
market
pre-COVID.
over. Yeah.
Right, over, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So some people think, "Oh, I see home prices coming down all the time. Like I saw this house price drop."
yeah,
And I think that's just because there's overpriced houses on in every market. That's always the case. Even in
mhm,
COVID, people would way overprice a house
yeah,
and that house would sit on the market. People think that they always flew off the shelves, and it's just not the case. Like if you way overpriced the house during COVID, that house sat just like every other house would sit because you say,
yeah,
"Oh, this house looks like this and it's 600,000.
yeah.
This house looks like a dump and it's 600,000."
So was it
No
just
one can buy
people
that.
lower like, because you heard of all the bidding wars, right? Is
Right.
that just because people lowered the price and then they just created a bidding war or why?
No,
Yeah,
I think that, during COVID, there were more buyers per home, and so, yes, homes were going above praised value,
yeah,
but if you way overpriced, now you have to get pricing right. You can't be like, "Oh, I'm gonna go up by 5% and still catch buyers 5 to 10% over." No, you're probably going to just end up reducing that purchase price or
Yeah.
the list price by 5 to 10% now. So, home prices have not really changed
Yeah.
recently. Like
Which is kinda interesting, right? Because supply demand.
right,
There's more supply,
right. But prices have
but
not yet felt
demand is still high.
high-ish. I mean, it's just meeting it. But at some point, it may not. And if interest rates keep going up, like in 2022 when they doubled, then eventually people say, I can't afford that anymore. They just drop out of the market. So that when you talk about the bonds thing, because bonds are so heavily tied to interest rates, and if the bond market is wild, interest rates can be wild. I actually had a
Well,
client under
the 10-year it's the 10-year treasury. So, like, when Powell says, "Hey, we're gonna cut rates by a certain percentage," and then your mortgage rates still go up,
right,
that's because it's all tied to the 10-year.
right.
That's what controls the economy.
It's not the
It's
Fed.
not the 4-week rate or whatever, overnight bank rate that
Yeah.
yeah.
But so they were very volatile. So you were talking before about how volatile they were.
Yeah,
I had
the
a
last week or last 2 weeks, they were
yeah,
crazy vol
last 2 to 3 weeks. So I got a
yeah.
client I got 2 clients under contract when they were low, and this was like a 3 to 4 day period,
It's probably went up.
and then they locked their rates,
Yeah,
and they went up half a point,
yeah.
and the agent called me and said, "Hey, did you did they lock their rates?" I was like, "Yeah, I told them to lock it as soon as they got under contract because I saw how volatile it was, and I was like, they're good right now. I don't know
Yeah,
if they're gonna be good in the future.
yeah.
If they drop by a point, most lenders will re-rate you. Um, they'll float your rate. It's a free rate float, and so they'll drop it down, but that almost never I don't know when that's ever happened. Um, so they locked he's like, "That would have blown up the deal," and it would've.
Alright, what
Debt to income ratios
sure.
would have been way out of whack because, yeah, they got pre-qualified that week,
Yeah.
rates dropped, and so they could afford exactly what they got,
Do you
and,
remember what date he locked it in,
uh,
roughly?
I could look at my phone,
Yeah,
but it was the Friday.
'cause we
I
had
think it was, like, March 27th or
oh,
28th.
yeah, yeah, that was
Was
before April 2nd.
yeah,
April 2nd is when the tariffs were announced.
right.
Yeah.
Um, it may have been after that. It may have been first week of,
It could have been after that because
actually,
it
it wasn't
wasn't
in the first
until
week of April
it
because that's
wasn't
when it's really volatile.
until it was when did the rates really yeah, the rates didn't start going crazy. I'm trying to think of when those went up. Anyways, yeah, it all happened pretty quickly.
Yep. Yeah, it was the first week of April. I just checked.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
First week of April, so
Yeah,
they went really volatile. They
yeah.
dropped.
Dropped
Um,
and then went back, and then they skyrocketed.
yeah, so he
Yeah.
locked his rate. One of my clients locked their rate at 5.99, and by the next week, they were at 6.4.
Oh, okay.
So, it was
Yeah,
a pretty big jump for
yeah. I mean, can you imagine someone 5'9" all of a sudden being 6'4"? Yeah, it's a big difference.
that's a big jump. They got the inserts into their shins. You got stretch marks, man. You would.
People
But
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Would they be vertical stretch they would
like,
be vertical stretch
or
marks
all around,
all around.
be like,
Looks like
hashtag stretch marks.
sorry, it's just yeah, so, okay, so
Yeah, yeah, so that created
Canadians are
so
not
so it's created so, like, so the K-nads aren't coming in with their tuxedos.
yeah,
There's less denim.
there's less denim, there's less syrup, maple syrup in the Phoenix area lately being consumed.
People aren't as funny. Comedy's
Like,
dying, eh? Yeah.
uh, yeah, comedy. Who's funny and
There's a lot of funny Canadians.
really?
Yeah. Because it's always c the joke is it's so cold, like, they have to be
About all
funny,
they can do.
but it was just think about
Just sit in the basement and talk and
this is Austin
funny.
Powers, Mike Myers.
Oh, Mike Myers is Canadian.
Myers is Canadian.
Good lender friend is
Just
Canadian.
yeah,
Myron is
right.
Canadian.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he's a funny dude. Um,
Yeah.
well,
That's video that you sent the other day about eating how big of a turd would you eat? Equinating.
it's so funny. That was a funny video.
We won't talk about
Still makes me laugh. Uh, As soon as I think of it, a bowl, dump truck, um,
Aztec.
Pontiac Aztec was a great reference, and you had to know the Pontiac Aztec.
Oh, yeah.
What a great
Yeah,
pull.
like a trunk. Yeah, yeah. It was great, yeah.
Um,
Sorry, yeah. Yeah,
but
like, so, yeah,
but
so that's so this is how it's affecting the market.
yeah, and then you've got new builders that are new build confidence is dropping right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think a part of that is they're getting materials from wherever. Well, I know
Yeah, from
cabinets, like the cabinets that we put in that one flip,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
they were from
Chinese.
China.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
But the problem we had then was freight, right?
yeah,
Because we had the whole freight issue.
right, we had to do
We had a it was a freight
surcharge.
surcharge, yeah, which
Yeah,
is now kind of the same thing.
yep,
I mean, with the tariffs, there's shipping surcharges and all that, and I mean, the tariff itself is a
which is
eh,
it's a great reminder as to the stupid ways that they continue to make money in whatever situation that we're in and how they imbalance trade. It's like,
yeah,
"Oh, we're gonna put a surcharge on our freight." What? Like,
yeah,
so anything coming from us now is gonna cost more because we decided it will,
yeah,
and you've gotta pay it.
yeah, and what are you gonna do? It's like, we ordered these a long time ago, and now we gotta pay a freight charge, so, yeah,
Yeah,
just
you
walk
know where
away.
I get
Yeah,
cabinets, or you've already put a deposit down and
I think
everything.
they were just charged I think they were just charging. Yeah. They were like, "Yeah."
They'll take
Okay, yeah, yeah, pretty much.
it, right? Um, so
So home builders are looking at materials?
I think they're
Right.
looking at material costs, and maybe they're looking at, like, insulation. I don't even know what
Oh,
type
yeah.
of home build comes from other countries because 'cause I'm thinking, I mean, lumber and stuff, that's gonna come from here, uh,
Oh, and Canada, we get
in Canada,
import lumber from Canada.
right? So, I think that they're looking at that and kind of just saying, "Well, it's uncertain overall.
Yeah.
People are less certain, and so we're just gonna be less confident about putting out new products, building in new areas, etcetera."
So do you know when when the supply went to 27,000, was it prior to the tariffs, or is this something was it kinda like? 'Cause
It was already climbing.
I felt like it was yeah, I feel like I know the stock market's volatile right now,
Right.
but the stock market was already crazy overvalued
Yep.
from the AI boom last year. I mean, last year, stock market hit huge,
Right.
crazy returns. And so I think part of it is just it was kinda like before when in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine, it was kinda like, "Oh, this causing the stock market to crater," but the
It
stock
was
market was
already
already overvalued.
right.
And so these things happen and it's like,
Yes.
it's just the market's finding a reason to kind of dump,
Right.
in my opinion. I
Yep.
mean, you never know what it is, right? You can't time it perfectly, but I feel like it was already things felt expensive. And maybe that it was I mean, it's kinda like the way with housing, like,
Yeah.
it's getting out of control,
Yep.
the
Housing
prices,
continues,
especially with because interest rates were continuing to rise and
yep,
prices were still rising.
and people are expecting returns on their houses that
Yeah,
are just totally unprecedented. I mean, if you're in the '90s, you bought a house 2 years ago, you're not thinking you're gonna get $100,000 out of it,
yeah,
but that's kind of people's perception right now is, "I bought a house back in 2021, and so
yeah,
it should have gone up crazy," and yeah, it might have gone up, but
yeah.
it's nothing like
But yeah,
right, it
yeah, yeah.
absolutely depends on what you bought. Uh,
Luxury versus a smaller
luxury
felt like
versus lower
luxury
or where? I mean,
yeah,
if you bought in Maricopa or Coolidge or Florence, you might be underwater in some of those areas, depending on when you bought. Prices have gone down, or you bought a brand new home, which had rate incentives that no longer exist, and so
sure.
now those homeowners are competing with the builders. So if I go in there and wanna buy a
Yeah,
resale house that's at 7% versus buying
yeah,
a
that's
4%.
yeah, you gotta wait till it's all out sold out, I guess.
Yeah, and so it might be helpful to those communities that the new builders stop because
Yeah.
ultimately what are they gonna do? How are they gonna get out of their houses in these difficult to get to communities? Um, yes, as you were saying, like, the trend is not just because of tariffs by any means
Yeah.
here locally because it's not even the trend across the United States. But in 2022, we went up to like 20,000. And then this last year, 2024, half, uh, the last 2 quarters,
Yeah.
I was looking and it was like 500 houses being added to the inventory every week, every other week. So it was ticking up.
So are these new homes?
No, it was just,
Resale home things.
just
Okay,
yeah,
okay, resale, okay.
yep. And I remember texting a couple of realtor buddies and saying, "Hey, check it out, like, another week with 500 more homes being added to
Yeah.
the market." And that's added to the market, but, I mean, obviously, some are still selling, but
Yeah.
the supply just kept going up even with some of these houses getting off the market from sales, obviously.
Is there, like, a healthy supply? Like, what should do you know, like, what the supply should be in, like, Maricopa County
I think
historically or
yeah, historically, I mean, Cromford, which is this local statistician, they say somewhere around 20 to 25,000
Okay,
houses. That's what I recall. And right now, we're heading toward a buyer's market for most of the market.
okay.
So I think the last report I saw, so 100 is the Cromford index's like balance, perfect balance, and we're
Yeah.
at like 88. So it's more of a buyer's market.
We're getting so 100 would be a buyer's market?
It's a balance. So there's like one buyer for one seller.
Okay.
We're just gonna come to terms,
Oh,
basically.
I see.
We're not gonna go crazy over. It's gonna be around the appraised
So
value.
still a seller's market, but it's heading to no.
It's
Did I get
more
that
of a
wrong?
buyer's
It is
yeah,
more of a buyer's market
yeah.
then.
So the lower it goes
Oh, the lower is more of a buy okay,
yeah,
I got it
yeah, I didn't
fast
say it
accurate.
else.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the lower the number, the more buyer's market it is. And if you're in the crazy, you know, multi-million dollar market, then yeah, that's more of a seller's market right now, and those prices
Yeah,
are like
because
totally
yeah.
void of any normal market conditions. People are just spending money because 'cause they're getting out of the stock market. They're getting out of what they feel is a good investment into real estate, which they feel is long term what they wanna be in.
Mm.
So, as far as what's on the horizon for Phoenix, I think that the outskirts will continue to be buyers markets for some time until interest rates change dramatically, uh,
Yeah, that's why it was during '08.
right?
I mean, well, '08 was just crazy. It was just everything crashed.
Everything crashed,
Yeah.
right? Right
But
now
outskirts were obviously hit way more.
and they
Yeah.
probably were hit first,
Yeah, for sure.
so
Yeah.
it's kinda like is this the canary in the
Yeah.
coal mine type
Yeah, nothing was exempt. Everything fell.
right. So I don't know what to expect. It's kinda like tariffs, I don't know what to expect as far as long-term horizon, but
Yeah, I feel like my clients all like, a lot of them are in construction, and they were in business, during '08, so they have that memory,
yeah,
and then they're basically saying, like, "This is the longest we haven't had any type of, like,
big correction.
recession
Yeah.
or correction," because even during COVID, they were got even busier.
Mhm.
Um, and so and of course, that's when all of a sudden money was just flowing in the market, and that's what, caused all the
How's
inflation. So, um, which is why we're paying more for houses now, just because it's all money supply.
right.
The money's still out there. So they are wondering like, okay, when is this going to stop?
Mm.
And so
When
when
is
is
the increase?
the building, the
Mm,
craziness?
yeah.
Just
Next
because it hurt so bad in '08. Yeah, like, most of them, if they even survived, were running on a skeleton crew.
right,
They because there's no work.
right.
They were just doing the work themselves, and then now it's, like, a different market, so they're like, "Okay, when is this? When is it are we in a bubble, or is it going to burst?" Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's, however much people wanna say it's one thing or another,
Yeah.
you just don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, if there's a war, then, yeah, prices are probably change, because at some points, people need to sell or need to buy, and if it's just a lot of people needing to sell, prices are gonna come down.
Yeah.
How much? I don't really know, but I don't see as far as whenever I've looked at the data, the prices are not the thing that have been so terribly inflated. It's more and more the amount somebody's paying per month, and that's a combination of prices increasing and, interest rates being as high as they are.
Yeah. Or I don't know if you know if we're starting to see any, like, defaults with, like, the prices being or houses being unaffordable,
Yeah.
with these crazy mortgages now people are a couple years into higher interest rates.
Yeah.
Are they able to sustain that?
So you're seeing some, um, you're seeing some short sales, some foreclosures, but I don't see any spikes.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of these are out in the outskirts where people bought at a low interest rate,
Yeah.
and then they're trying to sell and they can't because their neighbor's house is getting built tomorrow and it's at a percentage, it's like 3% less than
Yeah.
someone coming to buy their used home. So they just can't sell it. So I'm seeing that every now and then. And then some people that have just done terrible things with their houses, like you've got like a bunch of dogs in your house, it ruined everything. Yeah, that house is not going to sell very well right now.
Not that we have anything against dogs, right?
Uh, No, no, it's just like 20. I have, I think, what do you, how 20 dogs in a house? I do have something against that. So I don't see that as like a massive trend right now by any means.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
but we'll see if it changes at any point. These things can change, but
Yeah.
I don't see any like major, even when talking to lenders that track a lot of this stuff too, they have not shared anything about massive delinquency changes, et cetera. So if that happens, then yeah. And my guess is that if it does happen, it's going to be the people that bought in the last 2, 3 years because they bought thinking, uh, date the rate, marry the house, we're gonna refinance in 2 years anyway,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
they bought something that they could not actually afford at all, and
Yeah.
ultimately
Hoping
that
the rates were gonna go down.
right,
Yeah.
and ultimately that's the thing that kills anybody
You say
buying some
date the rate?
date the rate, marry the
Okay.
mortgage, that was the
Did
big
Ely say that wrong?
yeah, it's true. What is this touch? Date rate? Uh, yeah, watch yourself.
I've never heard that saying, date the rate.
Yeah, date the rate, the mortgage, that was people said that all the time, and it's fine if it actually comes true, but if it doesn't come true, then
Yeah.
you put
Yeah.
somebody in something they can't
Well, I don't think anyone thought rates were gonna
stop.
stay this high this long.
Right.
And I think that's why you see this pressure on Fed chairman to reduce the rates, which he did. He was starting to, and then he stopped because of the tariffs. He's saying because tariffs are going to create inflationary, what he's called now persistent inflation, which they used to call transitory.
Right.
So maybe it won't. It's always the opposite, right? Before they were saying it's transitory inflation, and then it was persistent. Now they're saying persistent inflation, so maybe it's going to be transitory.
Yeah.
A little
Double
bit
speak.
double speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what we exist in, right?
Yeah.
It seems. Um, so outside of construction guys, anybody else that feels the weight of the tariff stuff going on right
Well, I
now?
mean, I think you saw people just generally just starting to buy stuff
Mm,
because they wanna beat the price hikes because 'cause they're saying inflation's gonna happen, so if inflation's gonna happen, the logical thing to do is to buy now. Buy a Japanese car because the tariffs are gonna,
mhm,
increase the price,
right.
and so you just saw a bunch of people just go out and buy a bunch of stuff right now, the last quarter, I think. I'm forgetting the measure. They basically said, people, you know retail activity and everything went up, but it was probably it was probably,
Artificial due
the
to
artificial
people
yeah,
being
it
influenced
wasn't
by
gonna be
tariffs.
consistent, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
As far as, like, clients right now, I mean, this is so recent, so new, and I don't have anyone doing, like, drop shipping or anything like that, so I would assume it's gonna affect those types.
Right.
My businesses are mainly local in real estate, so construction real estate really hasn't been, um it's kinda has its up and downs, but there's been no crash, no meaningful changes as of yet.
Right.
So, but again, we're too soon into this, so
Yeah.
definitely gonna keep an eye on that. Um, No, but I'm still thinking about the tax law, and I think they passed a budget recently. The House did, House Ways and Means Committee or whatever. There's a whole process to the tax law, and
Right.
so we'll hopefully see something this summer. I think that's the target. Early summer to midsummer, we'll see an actual tax law. It's got to pass both.
What did so from that committee, was there anything that was stand out
Well,
for you?
they did this. Is they basically gotta have to create a sustainable budget based off of the priorities,
Right.
and the priorities are no tax on Social Security, tips, overtime. Those are the three things that are different. There's also for domestic production. I think they're going to try to do a used to do this in the past, domestic production activity deduction for corporations, give you a 20% deduction on your profit if you manufacture your item in the US. We'll see how all this kind of plays out. Those are the big, and then obviously the big part, those are kind of the, I guess those are the new things, but the other thing is just extending the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanently. And
Mm.
so there was some bit, I mean, if nothing gets passed, like everyone's taxes are going to go up like crazy next year. So something's going to get passed.
Going up like crazy?
Yeah, from what I understand, like even most people's taxes will probably go up about 20%.
20%.
Yeah. And then the child tax credit will be halved. So it'll go from 2,000 to 1,000 right now. We got 5 kids. Five kids. Pass it. I think they'll pass it because there's some I talked about this before, the salt cap, and a lot of people uh
They wanna pass the salt.
well, no, yeah, more of a it's like something you put on your head during the sauna. No.
It's very sweat.
That's like Swedish or something, like a salt cap or nightcap.
Okay.
Give you high blood pressure in the oh,
Salt
can't
is
sleep with that salt cap.
oh, yeah. You know, it's not ocean water.
Yeah, because what happens is, like, people's, uh, if you are able to deduct, and not use a standard deduction, but itemize,
Mhm.
your state and local taxes are capped at $10,000. And so, like, I've got a client in Texas whose, uh, property taxes are 20,000.
It's nice.
So
Probably.
it's capped at 10,000,
Mm.
so the idea is probably to, increase that to bring more Democrat support because a lot of Democrat people, a lot of politicians in Democrats states, are affected by that salt cap. So
Right.
that's probably how they're going to create some, if there's any bipartisan support. Doesn't look to be any bipartisan support right now for anything.
Really, it's just like it
It's one,
it
yeah, it's definitely
Republicans are
what,
doing
yeah,
it.
Republicans, yeah, it's pretty much driving this.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see.
I can't recall, is there enough of a majority that
I think there is right now. Yeah,
yeah,
but there are some Republicans who are like, "We're not gonna," I think,
they
like,
run it through?
Is it Rand Paul? I think he's kinda speaking out against the budget
Okay.
that was passed,
Mm.
but I don't know. I think when push comes to shove, he'll have to pass it. Yeah. They'll have to pass something because, yeah, people will be pretty pissed when their taxes go up next year if nothing's passed. So,
Yeah.
they'll I'm confident they'll pass something. So,
So they have not done anything meaningful with the tax law since, like,
no.
what have
No, because Biden wasn't able to get anything passed.
uh,
He tried to change a bunch of things. None of it got passed. Yeah.
probably good for
But
everybody.
it was good for, yeah, it really was. Yeah. You didn't want any of that. You didn't.
Yeah, um, you don't want none of this. Well, so first off, the guy in Texas has to have a nice house in Texas, right? Because there's
Not
no way that it's $20,000.
Oh, not really. That's just Texas.
Texas has
Because they don't have income tax. So they have
so
high
yeah,
property taxes.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because here, if you've got a $20,000
Yeah, it's pretty
bill,
big. Yeah.
that's a nice house.
His house probably is a little over 1,000,000.
Yeah,
So 20,000 is, it's over 20,000. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's just one example.
right,
I mean, that happens here too. I mean, property taxes have gone up since values went up.
right.
So, that's common out here too for people to exceed the salt cap. So that's becoming an issue everywhere right now because
because
because the
people
values,
across the
property
country,
values across the country went up.
yeah,
So
which is pretty fascinating. I mean, as far as you've got properties across the country going up in value, that's a lot of it's a lot of houses,
yeah,
and for it to just impact everybody.
yeah,
Now, markets are changing based on geography,
yeah.
but the fact that it was that widespread.
Well, it's inflation. It just goes to show you when you increase the money supply, everything goes up. It's just your
Right,
dollar's worth less. Your dollar buys less.
right,
So
and so if you want it, you gotta
you got to fork out more of
pay it
dollars. Yeah.
pay it. Yeah.
It's not that the prices are going up, it's that your dollar's worth less.
Yes, which I think people have this huge misconception when it comes to buying a house because they think, "Well, this is expensive." And you're like, "Sure, it's expensive now,
Yeah.
but if this inflation continues, it's one of the best hedges that you can have to inflation is the fact that your mortgage remains the same, if you can afford it.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
have
If you're in the
inflation, then
spot, yeah. If you're in the right spot to buy.
right.
Yeah.
But long term, I mean, you had people buying when interest rates were 17, 18%, and those prices have gone up significantly since then. Um, and it's just a matter of inflation.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing more necessarily more value about these homes. Sure, some markets are more valuable because it's better population center, you get better jobs, et cetera. But
Yeah. Like
overall,
you pump trillions of dollars into the economy.
yes, it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Things have to increase over time. They're just printing the money. So yeah, I think most people need to take a second look at that as like
Yeah.
hey, if you're going to hedge something, rents are always going to go up.
Yeah.
But if you can lock in something that you can afford, yeah, it may be worth it. 'Cause over a 10-year period, it's always been worth it. It's always gone up over 10 years. So,
Although I was around during when everyone was saying that and then '08 happened.
well, but then after that,
Or the
they
crash.
rebounded
Oh,
though.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
So after 10 years,
Yeah.
give or take maybe a year, they rebound. So
All right. So what did we learn about tariffs today? Did anything
Tariffs.
we just don't know? You know, we're just wait, right? Because I mean, it's too early to tell. I mean, something might happen. Something might have happened as we're
It's a huge
speaking, right?
negotiation. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
They
huge
may,
negotiation.
yeah.
We don't know what Trump's doing. We don't know what these other countries are doing. There's massive interests.
Yeah.
There's in negotiation, people are keeping things, they're not just putting all their cards on the table. That's what we were talking about earlier today.
Yeah.
No one's putting all their cards on the table because if you do, the likelihood that someone's going to use that information
Yeah. You're not
against
going to
you
get
is
what
pretty
you
good.
want. Yeah.
And so you have to carefully share information and or not so carefully just
Yeah. It's just scaring a lot of people right now.
yeah. Well, because it affects our lives.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Um,
But we'll get through it, right? We got through COVID. Remember, the world was going to end. We got through that.
there's if there's one
Like
thing
5 years from now, we won't even be talking about this.
no.
Hopefully not 5. Hopefully it's less than that. Maybe 5 months we're not talking about this.
It's true. And then when it's over, we'll be like, either this will play alive yet or ouch, that this was harder than we thought. So whatever it is, just keep working hard.
Just keep working hard.
On
Yeah, just
do
start.
your job.
Yeah, don't worry about it. This is a different time, but don't worry about it. Just don't think about it.
Yeah.